for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Have a seat. Roll call.
Holcomb.
Here.
Nikki.
Here.
Sarah.
Here.
Phillips.
Here.
Mike Bradford.
Here.
John Bradford.
Here.
Page.
Here.
Lemmings.
Here.
Bass.
Here.
Excellent. We have on agenda items, we have a new resolution that was laid on the table. I'd entertain a motion to put the resolution at the back of our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Roll call vote for the new agenda, please.
Holcomb.
Yes.
Nikki.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Bradford.
Yes.
Mike Bradford, sorry.
Yes.
John Bradford. Page.
Yes.
Lemmings.
Yes.
Bass.
You had emailed before you, or emailed to you and printed before you, I believe, most of you who requested it, copies of the minutes and the financials from last month's minutes and the current financials. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes and financials. Any discussion? All in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? For county judges' comments, the 911 center is just almost complete. If y'all want to go look at that, you're more than welcome to. We'll go over there after the meeting if you'd like to and look around. The courthouse is coming along. There's a lot of construction going on down there. I think those ladies will be really glad when that's done. Hopefully we're looking at the completion of most of the county projects on county buildings and all. We finally have a contractor who is willing to work on the buildings. He's doing a good job. We may have to rebid a couple of the projects, but it looks like we're going to be complete by the end of the year, which would be a win. We have a couple of committees that met this last month. Personnel committee, do you have an update for us?
We met, and one of the things that we did is we voted to give everyone back their hours, their sick time, instead of I think what was their max?
192.
192. Now they have a max of 480. So that was one of the things we did.
And that will be coming before the Quorum Court soon
Mhm.
as a policy update.
Yes.
Okay. And the budget committee also met. Nikki, would you like to update us on that?
Sure. The budget committee met on May 8th, and we voted to move to the full court a resolution to reallocate all of the remaining money in the QC budget to the sheriff's office. And there's a resolution in your packet that reflects that.
Excellent. Are there any elected officials or department heads that would like to approach the court tonight? Are there any, Justices, do you have any questions for any of the elected officials or department heads that are with us? Okay. That moves us right on along to new business, and our first ordinance is sponsored by Justice Lemmings.
Be it enacted by the Quorum Court, County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an appropriation orders to be entitled. Appropriation orders to amend the original appropriation ordinance 02022-58, the annual operating budget for 2023, and to appropriate $2,099.16 into the collector's automation fund, number 3001-104-3021. Whereas the county clerk's voter registration office is required to mail out voter registration cards. The postal machine is in the collector's office. Office will be used, and whereas the voter registration office has paid to the collector's automation fund $2,099.16 that needs to be appropriated. Now therefore be ordained by the Quorum Court of the Van Buren County, Arkansas, that Section 1, $2,099.16 be appropriated into the Collectors Automation Fund, number 3001-104-3021, postage. I move that we approve it as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Okay. Any discussion, and I'll open discussion. Lee just brought to the table a typo, which is obviously a Scrivener's error. It's in the year number up at the top. So we can call that a Scrivener's error. I believe that's fairly unremarkable. Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Holcomb,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Mike Bradford.
Yes.
John Bradford.
Yes.
Page.
Yes.
Lemmings.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
O 2023-29.
Thank you. Next is a resolution sponsored by Nikki Brown.
Be it resolved by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, a resolution to be entitled, a resolution to repeal Resolution R-2022-34 to reestablish guidelines for the funding attached to that resolution and for other purposes. Whereas Resolution 2022 R-34 allocated $400,000 for a project for the Quorum Court. And whereas there is a need to reappropriate the remaining unspent funds for use by the Sheriff's Department. And whereas there is a need to reapprove the funds. Therefore, be it resolved by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas that 1. Resolution 2022-R-34 is hereby repealed, and 2. The sum of $329,663 shall be approved for the Sheriff's Department. And 3. The funds may be used as needed to complete projects to improve the Sheriff's Department, jail, or any other purpose directly related to the Sheriff's Department or detention center, except any expenses for personnel services. I move that we adopt this resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this resolution. Any discussion? All in favor of approving this resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
R 2023-05.
So. And our next resolution is also sponsored by Nikki Brown.
Okay, and I'm going to point out that I have a Scrivener's error in the title as well. I have it O-2023, which needs to be R-2023. Be it resolved by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, a resolution to be entitled, a resolution to repeal R-2022-09, R-2022-11, R-2022-16, R-2022-26, R-2022-27, and R-2022-30. Whereas Resolution 2023-05 allocated $329,663 to the Sheriff's Department, and whereas there is a need to repeal previous resolutions for this reallocation of funds. Therefore, it be resolved by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas that 1. Resolution R-2022-09 is repealed. 2. Resolution R-2022-11 is repealed. 3. Resolution R-2022-16 is repealed. 4. Resolution R-2022-26 is repealed. 5. Resolution R-2022-27 is repealed. 6. Resolution R-2022-30 is repealed. I move we approve.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance or resolution. Any discussion? All in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
R 2023-06.
And then we're up to public discussion, and Roger Brock, you're welcome to present to the court.
My name is Roger Brock. I live at 357 Grove Lane, which is in Van Buren County. It's in the area along Sandiff, right along the middle fork of the Little Red River. It's directly across Highway 16 from Fairfield Bay. And the reason I'm here tonight is we've had an ongoing problem in our neighborhood, which is a serious public safety concern that I've been working on for months, literally months. And you have two handouts in front of you there. There's one, a plat map, and there's a letter from the Fairfield Bell Fire Department. And what I'd like to do tonight is tell you about the problem, tell you what I've done to try to solve the problem on my own, and then propose two possible things that you guys as the Quorum Court could get together and maybe we could get together and solve the problem. The problem is that over the last 9 months, 3 different property owners in our neighborhood have decided they can block the roadway. They blocked it by various means, gates, they dropped trees across it. One of the neighbors decided that it would be good to get a dump truckload of rocks and dump a dump truckload of rocks in the road. What this does, it creates a serious public safety hazard because that is a fire service access road where the fire department and the ambulance services have to use to get to our location. And what has happened is that now the fire department and the ambulance can't get to us, and we're down there all the time. We walk down there every day. I cut wood down there, I fish down there, I kayak down there. And if I have a heart attack down there, they can't get to me because the road is blocked. That's the problem. I have talked to the Sheriff's Department multiple times. I've talked to the Prosecuting Attorney's Office multiple times. I've talked to Dale James. I've talked to Arkansas Game and Fish. I've talked to the Corps of Engineers. I've talked to my state representative. I've talked to my state senator. And everybody is concerned about the situation, but I can't get anybody to step up and say, we're going to solve the problem. So the problem is we're being put at risk because of the road blockage. There's no other way to look at it. It's unsafe for us to be there, and we're there every day. And we have the right to fire access, and we have a right to the ambulance coming down there. So there's a very inexpensive way to solve the problem. And if you look at your plat map there's three roads that are highlighted in yellow. Those are the roads inside Middle Fork Acres. Middle Fork Acres is a subdivision that does not have county roads in it. These roads were designated to the public back by the developers in 1978, I believe. And they have been kept up by the landowners, but they are still the roads that are used that we use inside the development. And a way for the county to take care of it, the Quorum Court to take care of this, is if they signify by ordinance that these are fire service access roads. The other letter I gave you is a letter from the Fairfield Bay Fire Department, which we don't live in Fairfield Bay, but they cover us. The Fairfield Bay Fire Department covers us. We're part of their fire district. And they have investigated the situation, and between the fire chief, Doug Forsman, who's their consultant, and AJ Kelly have come up and determined, as you can see on the letter, that is a fire service access road, according to the Arkansas Fire Code that's written out of Little Rock. The people were informed that they're in violation of this, and it had no effect on them. They don't care. They don't care about our safety. They just do not want to respond to us. So if the Quorum Court would write an ordinance that says what already is happening, they're all fire service roads right already. So what we would do is write an ordinance that says the 3 fire service access roads in Middle Fork Acres are fire service access roads and cannot be blocked. If we have an ordinance written by the Quorum Court that is plain and simple and says if it follows the fire code already says it can't be blocked. If we have an ordinance that follows the fire code and is written in a way that it's prosecutable and it's accepted, and the Sheriff's Department will come and write a citation, and then the Prosecuting Attorney's Office will prosecute. That's a situation where we're trying to get to, where the road can be opened, and if it isn't opened, then action can be taken, and there's an enforcement arm and there's a prosecution arm which will solve the problem for us. Right now, we're not at that point. That's inexpensive. The roads are already there. We're not changing the status of any of the roads. We're not spending any county gravel, time, road graders, or anything like that. We're just administratively taking care of our public safety issue. The other idea I came up with was making them county roads. if we make them county roads, then obviously you can't block the road because the penal code comes into play. You have disorderly conduct, you can't block a public walk or a public roadway. But that's would cost thousands and thousands of dollars to build the roads up to a county road standard. We're not looking for thousands and thousands of dollars. We're looking for an easy administrative solution to the problem of our safety put in jeopardy by the people that are blocking the road. Those are the two ideas I've come up with. And if anybody here has any other ideas, I've been working on this for months. I've talked to everybody I can possibly talk to. I've spent hundreds of hours. I've learned a whole lot of things I've never wanted to learn. And I'm here asking you guys to help us out. And if anybody has any ideas about what I've said, or the two ideas I brought up, or their own ideas about what we can do to solve our public safety problem, I'd love to hear it. And I'd love to develop a plan yet tonight where we can move forward and make some progress towards improving our neighborhood. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, where on this road are they blocking it at?
They're blocking it about between 88 and 89, right down on Railroad Bed Road, right down here by the river, about right here.
Okay.
I can see that.
Is this private property now?
This
Somebody
is-
bought it as private property?
It's not private property. The Middle Fork Acres is private property. Everybody is it's just like a regular, we have 25 acres down there. Everybody that owns property down there obviously owns all their property, but as you look at the plat map, you'll see there's about 15 or 16 lots that run along Railroad Bed Road. This is Railroad Bed Road that runs along the river there. There's about 15 or 16 lots that run through there. Railroad Bed Road was designed to service all those lots, all those people's houses. And when Fairfield Bay was booming, there were going to be $1 million houses all along there. Well, Fairfield Bay stopped booming and our neighborhood kind of slowed down. Now it's beginning to build and there's getting more and more people down there. And we have a problem now because the road's blocked. And I can't find anybody to help us out. And the road is blocked and the fire trucks can't get through and the ambulance can't get through, the game warden can't get through, the Corps of Engineers can't get through.
Okay.
Who
And
blocked the road? Was it this one owner that decided to put up a gate where nobody?
There's 3 different landowners have blocked the road over the last 9 months. Do you want to tell, we got their names?
Why? I mean, what was their?
Because,
Sorry,
go ahead,
no,
ma'am.
you go ahead and answer his question.
They believe that their parents and grandparents used to own property in that neighborhood before it was developed, so they have special privileges.
So these are not even the original landowners. These are people who.
These are people that, for over 11 years, my wife and I and my dog have walked up and down that road in peace. And recently, in the last couple of years, different people have moved in and bought a chunk of property together. Family members have bought property that's next to each other, and they've decided that they own everything. They own the roads. And now they block the roads. And the plat map shows all the lots along Railroad Bed Road there have a Z line or a tie line, which designates that they own the property on the top of the road and the bottom of the road, they don't own the road. And the roads are registered with the county. They're 50-foot wide. All 3 roads are drawn out there. There's a plat map down the hall in the land office, and that's a copy of that. The roads have been designated to the public by the developers. Paul Bone and Johnson are the ones that developed this, and there's restrictions and covenants about they will remain in perpetuity. I think, is that the term, forever and ever? They're easements, and they're also roadways, and they were designated to the public by the developers back in 1978, I believe. And that's signed, and that's down the hall there in the land office. So, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so, and these are not county roads, and
Correct.
have you spoken to the county judge? You've spoken to him about it?
Yes, we're trying to come up with a solution, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and have you looked at any kind of civil litigation?
I'm being sued right now, yes.
You're
Okay.
being,
So,
okay.
it's time for me to jump in. I was gonna try not to jump in until everyone was done talking. First of all, I want to read to you the covenants and restrictions that concern roads in Middle Fork Acres, which have not been repealed. This is as stands. Roads and streets shown on the plat of Middle Fork Acres subdivision shall belong to the subdivider and shall be maintained by it until such time the subdivider may elect to dedicate the roads and streets to the public. The subdivider for itself and its grantors, and it goes into some legalities, but it requires votes of an HOA, and then those roads would have to be brought up to county road standards before we would bring them in. So it's not a gray area whether or not these are private roads for a private purpose. By all the documents that are filed, these are definitely private routes.
The roads have been designated to the public.
Those roads are private.
I understand that, sir, but the documents down the hall here in the county that have been registered with the county by the developers state very clearly.
Yes, sir. I'll let you talk. Let me talk.
Okay.
Okay? This is a civil matter. You've been told this is a civil matter by the prosecutor's office,
Yes.
and I have told you that it's a civil matter.
Yes, sir.
There are lawsuits pending.
Yes, sir.
That is where this belongs, is in the court system. A civil matter needs to be determined by the civil system. We don't have a road issue that falls under the jurisdiction of myself or the Quorum Court. We have a neighbor issue that we don't need to be involved in.
I have a right to fire protection. I have a right to ambulance protection. I have a right to everybody using that road. It's not about, we're not having a disagreement about where the property line is. We're having a disagreement about if they can stop the ambulance from coming down me when I cut my femoral artery when I'm down there with my chainsaw. It's not a civil thing. A civil thing is the easy way to stop, to not get involved. We live there, and we pay taxes, and the roads, Paul Bone and Mr. Johnson were very, very deliberate on how they set this up and how they gave the roads to the public. And the definitions of what public and private mean are up to whoever writes an order for what that is, but it doesn't mean the ownership of the road. It's not about, this is a disturbance about my property line. This is the property line, and I think it's over here, and he thinks it's over here. My house is down there. I live down there. The other people live down there, and we have a right to an ambulance.
So let me ask you a question. Are the roads, do they have a recorded easement?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, so in an easement, there's an owner of the easement. And I believe what the judge read is that the subdivider owns the easement. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So the subdivider would be Paul Bone or Mr. Johnson.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so those two men own the easement.
Well, there was a corporation owned the easement.
So is there a HOA or a POA?
The corporation was dissolved in 2003. The two people have passed on.
Okay, so you need to hear what is being said. And I deal with this on a daily basis, especially with utility easements. The easement has an owner, and right now, that owner is Paul Bone and Mr. Johnson. So there is a individual issue that has to be addressed. So there's where your issue lies, is you've got to get with the owner of the easement. That's where this is going to get solved.
Okay, the owner of the easement is a Middle Fork Properties. It's a corporation that was set up to develop this property. That was dissolved in 2003 by Mr. Bone and Mr. Johnson.
Okay?
So the last record there is that these roads were designated to the public.
So until there's public record that they've been designated to the public, the easement still is owned by the subdivider.
Okay, there's a record down the hall here that says it has been designated to the public. It's all been signed and it's all been stamped by the county.
What happened is he came in and he kind of tried to circumvent the system by getting this road named.
Can you
We
say-
can-
He who?
Roger, we can name any route. We want FedEx to be able to deliver to any home. We want the ambulance to be able to get to any home. This railroad bed, it was suggested by Roger to call it railroad bed. Well, fine, we did. That by no means implies public ownership.
No, it's just, it gives the 911 system a point where our building is down there.
Right.
Just like it gives the 911 system a point where my house is.
What's the status of the lawsuit? The civil litigation?
I don't understand the question, ma'am.
Okay, so there's a pending civil lawsuit
Yes, ma'am.
regarding this, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So what is the status? What's going on with that case?
There's our local attorney is Kent Tester, and if you look on Court Connect, it gets interesting, and there's a motion to dismiss again today.
Well, I have looked at it, but I want you to tell the, tell the.
Okay,
everybody what's going on.
if you look on Court Connect, then you put in my name, Nikki's very familiar with that, I'm sure Honorable Carol Cruz is also. If you go to Court Connect, you can read the whole thing. We're getting sued for walking down the road. We've been walking down the road for 12 years. We didn't have a problem until 9 months ago. And they have put gates up, they've greased the gates, they dump fish guts down there, they shoot raccoons and dump them in the road. They pile rocks up, then they ram a trailer up against that. They drop 4 or 5 logs across the road so we can't walk through.
But the issue, I guess, there is who has the right to use that road, right? Whether it's to walk down it or to dump the things you're talking about, or to block the road, right? And that's kind of the underlying issue of the
public has the
case.
right to use the roads.
Well, but I'm saying that's the issue for the judge to determine, right? In that case.
Now, there isn't a question about, the people that are suing us believe that they own the road.
Right.
And that's not based on any county record that's here. That's based on, that's like, well, my grandparents used to own property here, so I own this road.
Yeah.
So,
But I guess what I'm saying is that I think what my interpretation is what you're presenting to the court is that issue is wrapped up in this suit for that judge to determine.
well, the road, Ryan,
Which is why we've told you it's civil. It's not that we're not sympathetic, to what's going on.
Ryan Stacks, the attorney for the other side, has said in here somewhere that the road is not the issue.
it's us walking down the road. So and the fire department has determined it's a fire service access road. So if it's a fire service access road, the fire department needs access to the road.
Mary, will you say something? When you guys were done, I went out there and looked at it, and that's a road. And it'd be like me going down the road in front of my house, and I live on T, and it would be like me going down across and putting a gate up there and not allowing anybody else to go down my road. That's the road. I can see it here, I could see it when he took me down the road. Now, don't care who owns it, it's not a brand new road. It's been there for at least 12 years, right?
It's the old where the
Yeah, I mean, the
It's
road's
where
been
the
there for a
railroad-
long
where
time.
the railroad used to go along
Yeah.
the river before the lake was formed.
Yeah, and
That's
all of a
railroad.
sudden now you got a gate.
Now
You
it's
got a gate
gated.
sitting up there, no fence, just a gate. And you can't get through the gate. And so the only way you can go off that road is to back up the whole way and have to turn around. Yeah, how long has that gate been there?
There's been various gates for 9 months. This specific gate has been there for probably a couple months, I can tell you.
Okay, well, it's been there, it's not been there a year. It's been there a short time. Okay, now, how many people have you had to go to see this? I mean, to try, he wants down the road.
Well, and I'm familiar with the area as
Yeah.
well. Just from I live on Lightfoot Drive that connects to this road, essentially. so I'm familiar with the area as well, and I understand the difference between civil and criminal, and I understand there's a line that we have to skirt, but I haven't read the court case, so I don't know what the details of that are, but from someone who is an EMS and is on the fire department, I can only imagine the frustration I would feel if we were trying to get to a patient and we could not get to that patient because of a gate that should not be there in the first place. Now, I don't know how to solve this.
This gate is welded together. It's got barbed wire running off both sides. There are gates that are approved in the fire code. A specific kind of gate is approved in the fire code, like if you come into a residential neighborhood. But there has to be all kinds. It's got to be designed specifically. There's got to be turnarounds for fire trucks and all that kind of stuff. So the fire trucks can't get through. The ambulance can't get through, and we're stuck down there. And I'm just looking for some help. And we're not trying to change anything that's happening in the civil deal. This is not a civil deal. This is our safety's in jeopardy every day, and I have a right to protection. I pay taxes. And
You said you have a house down there?
I live on lot 60. We own our house is on lot 60, and then we have 3 lots along the river. We have a storage building down here on the river.
Okay. If you can, which way do you come to get to your lot?
We come this way here.
So EMS and fire and all that stuff can't come that way either?
They can come this way, but they can't get down to the river here. The problem isn't EMS coming to my house. The problem is EMS coming down here if I'm in my deer blind, or if I'm kayaking, or if I'm fishing, or if I'm walking every day, because it looks like this is a big circle here.
Mm-hmm.
But the grade on Grove Lane, where it comes down to Riverbed Road, is too steep for a fire truck or an ambulance. I drove an ambulance for 10 or 11 years, and we measured the grade, and Doug Forston has been out there, and it is not possible for fire apparatuses to get down there.
Have you filed any kind of civil litigation since they've erected this gate?
No, we're just
Or
defending
various
ourselves. We are responding to being sued.
But
That's what-
usually if someone gates you out or puts a barrier, and just so we're clear, because I noticed I don't work for the prosecutor's office. When they gate you out of something, or they're taking, you sue them. That's how it works civilly to remedy the situation. So why wouldn't you sue them if
You have to have easement into your property.
and clear that up?
I'm trying to protect my public safety and not drop $10,000.
But I'm going to give an example. If it's not that it's access to your house, it's access. So I have a river below my house. I go and I play down there. There's no way the ambulance could get to me, and I know that when I go down there. I feel that it's different if the access is to. I think it's a civil issue, but we're not talking about access to your house. We're talking about if you want to go kayak, correct?
Yeah, we're talking about access to the river and to our building. And the Arkansas Fire Code says it is a fire service access road. And A.J. Kelly has determined that that is legally a fire service access road.
Which might mean, and I'm not in any way, which might mean you would have a strong civil case, right? But every wrong, if this is a wrong, can't be righted by a criminal prosecution necessarily, okay? And so what we're saying, what we've told you, and I guess all the other agencies that you listed too, is that there's things that are designated in the civil realm and stuff in the criminal realm, and that this belongs in the civil realm. That doesn't mean that something bad's not going on and that it's not all the things that you described.
Is it possible to write a county ordinance that says these are fire service access roads? Is that possible?
I don't think it would be legally, because we have no claim or jurisdiction over anyone's private property.
Right.
If I were to take county road equipment down there and start working on this property, it would be criminal.
Right.
No, I'm not asking.
I know, but
But
I'm just saying, we have no authority to be.
It's not a private road.
That's what I'm kinda hung up on that and what's in that, which I guess I would need to explain to see what Mr. Brock is talking about with it being,
Those are roads that we use to get to our house. There's 3 roads in there, in our community. There's Railroad Bed Road, there's Grove Lane, and there's Pole Ranch Spur. And you'll notice on your plat map that Grove Lane and Pole Ranch Spur, you own property on one side of the road. On Railroad Bed Road, you own property on both sides of the road. But you don't own the road. Railroad Bed Road is a road just like Grove Lane.
But I guess the legal issue, it sounds like that they're claiming that they do own the road and there's some sort of an easement, and are you in violation of that easement? So that's what I was saying earlier. The underlying issue then becomes for the judge to determine, number one, what is the road? Is it public or private? And then number 2, who has access to it? And so that's why I was bringing up the civil case.
So,
Right.
is it possible, so the Quorum's court opinion,
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry.
Carol? And this is what is kind of just, it looks like, this is the road, that's a nose on my face, If you look at the top arch, you see that road that's the top arch? And you can drive into it this way. Okay? This is the main road coming down into the T's, okay? That looks like a solid road, right? How can you slice it?
I'm not
And
saying
say-
it's not a road,
I
Mary. That's
I
not
know, but
what
I
I'm
mean,
saying.
how can that is
Okay, so
a
here's-
road that both people have access to both ways.
So,
They don't now.
here's what he's saying, this
Right.
property over here.
And that's why there's a mechanism to file a lawsuit and to get a judge to get involved.
Whoever
Absolutely.
owns this lot
We're
owns the
all
lot
saying
on
should
both
be
sides
doing
of
what
the
they're
road.
doing.
If
No,
every,
not 100%.
if every time there was a complaint that doesn't involve, every time there's something going on that isn't right, doesn't necessarily mean that there can be a criminal prosecution of
Yeah.
it, right? So I think
So
y'all are
the only
misunderstanding
thing he
our
can
position.
do, the only thing he can do is go hire a lawyer.
Right, and get a civil case.
Yeah.
That's kinda the same.
Well, as opposed,
Yeah.
hold on, as
It's
opposed to
obviously
what?
a case. I mean,
What else are you thinking should be,
Well, I'm just saying,
The
the
sheriff's
only,
gonna go
the
rip-
only person he can go to.
that the sheriff's gonna go rip the gate out?
No, but I mean, there's no one he can go to that can say, that's road, you can't block it.
Without a civil.
Yeah,
Because
without having to go get a lawyer
All the people,
and
all the
pay a
people
lot
on
of
the
money.
bottom,
Yeah, well-
if everybody could block this, there could be 14 gates along here. And the people that are stuck in the middle wouldn't be able to get to their property.
Yeah, no, I mean.
And you can tell how this was designed by Paul Bone and Johnson, that this road is to access all that property. That's what it was designed for, and that's why it's designed the way it was. So,
But there's no inherent enforcement mechanism. I mean.
No, that's why
short
I'm
of-
here.
Short of the Quorum Court doesn't
What can
have
help
an
you?
enforcement mechanism. So if they pass something right now and he doesn't take the gate down, what would be the enforcement mechanism?
if there was a prosecutable county ordinance,
So what would be the enforcement mechanism with the prosecutor?
the sheriff's department can write a citation.
And it would still be up, right? And so you'd be in front of.
I don't know, I think if it was against the law and they received a citation, the gate would come down. But it's not, I can't find anybody to help us make our neighborhood safe, and that's why I'm here. I've been,
Well, we certainly want everybody to be safe. I can't get involved in things that aren't criminal just because I don't like what's going on.
right, we would have to,
So-
there is no enforcement mechanism right now because it's not criminal.
So a circuit judge would get involved. A circuit judge in the civil realm would have jurisdiction over this type of a dispute. And if someone didn't obey his or her order, then the circuit judge they can put them in jail, right? They can fine them, they can hold them in contempt of court. They can put heavens, they can put a lien on their, there's all kinds of enforcement mechanisms, and that's the way the system's set up. Does that mean sometimes it's unfair that people have to, sure, I'm with you. But I can't circumvent the system, the process and the system just because I don't like what I'm hearing. And that doesn't mean that we're not sympathetic, and clearly I see that this is a road, but But there is a system in place for you to deal with this, and you've been told that by, 6 or 7 or 8 different agencies. So it sounds like all of us agree, even Game and Fish and Sheriff's
Game and
Office,
Fish,
the Sheriff's here.
Game and Fish said you can use that road like you have for the last 12 years.
Sure.
They just can't come down there and do anything.
Right.
The Corps of Engineers wants.
Because you need a circuit judge's authority to be able to enforce it, is what I'm saying.
Nobody dares to test the water of writing a citation. If somebody would come down there and write a citation, and then it would go to the prosecutor's office, and then we could have some case law formed real quick, and there would be case law that you can't block this road. But nobody.
Baseball doesn't,
Let me
doesn't
ask-
happen like that, but I hear what you're saying. I'm very sympathetic, but
I'm sorry, I'm KO. The only thing that I am hung up on is what he was referring to as being down the hall as the road being marked as public. Does what you just read, does that supersede what he's talking about? I don't have that document, so I don't.
After the document that Judge James referred to as the covenants and restrictions that were drawn up originally. And then Paul Bone and Mr. Johnson it says in there that they're the property of the developer until they are designated to the public. They have designated them to the public. And that's the county, the latest and last county record of anything here is that they were dedicated to the public.
So that's my question is are they public roads because of what's filed down there?
They're not.
So my understanding is because they're not public roads, to use medical terms because you're familiar with that, it's, as a quorum court, it's out of our scope of practice. Is that what I'm understanding?
But we can't go turn out as a property. That's a case. I mean, you have to get a court case. It's not.
it's a textbook civil issue, yeah.
Right.
Even
Not that,
though we would
yeah, I
like to
mean,
do something to-
I see this a lot.
To fix it.
And in my position, I get to see the absolute best in people most of the time. But there are the rare occasions where I get to see the absolute worst. And we see neighbors who just can't get along. And there's a little bit of wisdom that I've learned over the last 5 years of listening to these, because I always hear one neighbor at a time. They're never in front of me arguing together. We're listening to one side of this. Even though you may have a very clear picture of what's going on, that's why this needs to go to civil court to hear both sides of it simultaneously. We just don't have the authority to do this. It is private in nature. Everyone agrees with that. I'm sympathetic to it. If I were using this road and someone suddenly gated it off, I'd be aggravated. But if I were the property owner and someone kept continuously playing devil's advocate, if someone continuously trespassed over my property and it was my property, I might gate them out of it. And that's just being
If it's private
devil's
property,
advocate.
I would be in jail right now because I've trespassed every day for the last 12 years.
That's why they went through the civil process instead of going through the criminal process. He could have called the sheriff and said, "Hey, this guy's trespassing
No,
on
they
our
have called
property."
the sheriff.
Okay.
Numerous times.
And he probably,
And I have sympathized with you, Mr. Broad. I've not arrested you. I've said the same thing. Once a ruling has been made on this, I will enforce it if it means arresting someone for blocking it because it's considered a public roadway and that you legally have access. But until then, I can't arrest them and I cannot arrest you because there's not been a decision made on that.
So out of curiosity, just out of curiosity, could the judge in this case, where the case is filed against Mr. Rock and his wife, could he ultimately rule that the person is in?
Yeah, I mean, in civil cases, you can add, different claims and issues can if the parties choose, kind of to be added and presented to the judge. So it's possible that could be.
I mean, could it not work out in the person's favor that is suing Mr.
work out in his favor?
No, the other,
Oh yeah, if they can concoct anything
let's
any
just,
kind of record, I've asked their attorney to meet. I've asked them to meet. I said, I'll take you to Jack's for breakfast. Let's talk about this like adults. Let's solve the problem. There's no use in throwing money to Ken Tester. Like, he's a great guy, but he doesn't need my money.
Right.
question being,
So-
so if this neighbor's name was Joe, could the judge ultimately rule in Mr. Brock's favor on Joe's case?
Yes, he
Because
has a
of-
documentation
because of-
showing that it is a
That's-
public road and that it was dealt the way it was, and yes, it could be.
So it
So
could work out
if
to
the
where it's
judge
handled.
in this case says that this road, what does the judge have to say in order for us to get help from this quorum?
You wouldn't need help from us, is my understanding, if the judge ruled that it is a public road and they are in violation.
If there's the piece of paper down the hall that you said there was that Mr. Bone or whoever said, turn it over for public use or whatever,
Yes, sir.
then to me that's a strong case for the judge to go, well, right here it shows, so that could be a big part of your case.
Yeah.
But that's not something we can do.
Right.
Ultimately, from what I'm understanding, what I'm learning, we would be going over the judge's head, which we cannot do.
I'm very sympathetic to the cause here, but how many, who else live, does any people live down past that road, past where he's blocking it?
Yes, sir.
They have houses, how do they get, what's their access, how do they get to their house?
They come in from a driveway off Grove Lane.
Yeah, it's blocked right here on there, right?
They go around.
Yeah, right, well, how do they get down to here? Go all the way around?
Yeah.
And I'd also say, if you were to file a civil suit, you've done a very good job of presenting yourself to us. You may not need a lawyer. So
I've been in front of a jury multiple times in Dallas, so I feel fine up here. That's, if anybody wants to say anything else and give me any ideas besides suing these people, I'm trying to do my best to give Kent Tester $10,000 so I can walk down the road.
So there's a big difference between blocking a public road and blocking an easement. Those are two different things.
Oh, yes, sir.
So you need to make sure that the court records or the land records state public road and not easement, because those are two different battles. That's the only advice I can give you.
Oh, yeah, it's a 50-foot easement, which is the roadway, and that's what the problem is, that the sheriff's department is not going to enforce this until there's something like that is enforceable through an ordinance. That was my idea. We'll get an ordinance, they can enforce it, my problem solved. No cost to the county, you just, by making those roads, by naming those roads what they already are. But if that's not possible, then I tried my best. I've talked to everybody and their brother and some sisters and
It sounds like
all of you
you've
guys.
done your due diligence, and it's very
And I sympathize and I second Dale. I mean, you have done a very good job of, saying this, and I would hope that maybe there's a realm that it can get handled within the case that's already been. And you did a good job. I mean, I don't know, but
But I would make sure that judge has that document.
Oh, yeah, we have every document that's accessible to the county. I have dug and dug and dug and dug. I have people's deeds that say the easements are supposed to be open. I have copies of their title policies that insures their lot. I've got everything you can imagine. I just thought that this might be the way to solve my problem, but it appears that's not the way, so I appreciate your time. And I will talk to you again about other things. Now that this isn't going where I wanted it to go.
do I hear a motion to adjourn, or is anything else before we close? Motion to adjourn. Any opposed?